Welcome, everyone. Before we begin, I just have a few notes to announce about conducting our virtual meeting that we have today. The meeting must comply with the requirements of the Open Meetings Act. Accordingly, the public may view this meeting via a link provided in the advertised agenda. Please ensure that your video is streaming and that you can be seen throughout the duration of the meeting, the entire meeting. For any items that require a vote, and there will be 2 of these today, a roll call vote will be necessary to record the vote of every member of this committee. So the member should state their name and then pause and then state, I vote yes or I vote no. Then please silence or turn off any other electronic devices that may cause any disruption to your sound feed now.
Right. Kenita Ballard.
We're doing attendance, correct?
We are doing attendance, yes.
Okay, here, present.
Sarah Beard. Melanie Callahan.
Here.
Susan Sintra is not here. Sharon Collins. Carla Criswell.
Here.
Chad Davidson.
I'm here.
Amanda Claire.
Here.
Carla Lawson.
Here.
Amber Ramirez.
Here.
Okay, Chair, you do have a quorum.
All right. We will now move into the review of criteria for selecting the candidates for non-voting teacher member of the Kentucky Board of Education. To be selected as the teacher member, the applicant must be employed on a full-time basis by Kentucky Public School District in a position for which Educational Professional Standards Board or EPSB certification is required, and they must not be employed in an administrative role and must reside in Kentucky's 1st Congressional District. Now we will review and discuss the applicants for the non-voting teacher member. Committee members were asked to review the candidates prior to this meeting. Therefore, a good starting place for each of us is to identify our top 3 candidates for consideration and discussion. Please remember that no candidate can be referred to by name, and we are only going to use the application numbers and not to share any confidential information related to that candidate. So let's go ahead and get started, just conversationally, I suppose. And we can each talk about our top 3 candidates. Amber, I know you have to head out. So if you want to start us off and talk about your top 3 applicants, that would be just fine.
Okay. My top 3 in, I guess, order based off of scoring wise for me were 5, 3, and 1.
5, 3, 1 in that order?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And did you have a total score for 5?
Yes, it was 32.
Okay. And for 3?
31.
And for 1?
30.
Okay. Did anybody else want to jump in there and maybe to echo those numbers of applicants or to toss out your top 3?
Kenita Ballard. I concur with 5 and 3 as those 2 candidates of my top candidates. I scored them evenly for 32 points. I did have 5, 3. I also had. Oops. I apologize. I'm missing something from my notes. Okay, I see it. You know when you take your glasses off.
Absolutely. I left mine at home today, so I'm just about blind.
3, 4, 5 were my recommended candidates.
Okay. All right. So Kenita had 5, 3, and 4. Amber had 5, 3, and 1. Anybody else want to jump in here? Okay, Amanda?
Yes, I can pull up mine. I have one for me I had a hard time. Like I had a hard time. I'm like split between 1 and 3. I scored them both at a 35, and then with number 6, I scored at a 33.
Okay. So it looks like 3 is showing up often if we look at just numbers. Chad, what about you? Top 3?
Yeah, I was going back through my stuff, just to
You're
double
fine.
check. That way I don't say something wrong. I did like, candidate 3 as well.
Okay.
And 5 did hit my list, both in the 30, 32, 33 range. So
All right. And your third candidate?
I'd have to go back and look.
Okay.
There were 2 of them. Those 2 stood out. The others kind of were lower scores. So
More
if I'm
evenly
looking at it,
distributed?
yeah, that would be the ones I would do.
All right. So I have Amber, Kanita, Amanda, and Chad. Anybody else want to jump in and share their numbers? It
Okay,
looks like
so
we're missing Carla.
yes, Carla Criswell.
So
So
give me
either I cannot add correctly or I scored wrong because my numbers are not that high. I don't know why.
Maybe you just gave him a harder test.
Oh, maybe so. But my top numbers was number 3 was number 1 for me,
Okay.
number 4, and then number 1.
Okay. All right. Carla, do I have Carla Lawson? Are you on, Carla?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. What you got?
I have 1 and 6, both with 33.
Okay.
And then I had applicant 3 with 31.
Okay. So for me, I think I'm the last person, number 6. For my numbers, my top were applicant 3, applicant 4, and applicant 7. So I was kind of off the beaten path a little bit than you guys, but 3 showed up again. So that tells me, if I look at every single person who's here today for the quorum, Amber had 3 in her vote. Carla had 3 in her vote, Carla C. Kanita, Carla L, Amanda, myself, and Chad, we all had applicant 3. So if we want to look back at that application or address that or look at some others, we can do that. Were there any
Melanie,
comments based upon
I have
another
a question. Oh, so
Yes.
sorry. I have
You're
a
fine.
question rather. So, and again, this is my first time with TAC and especially in this capacity. So is there, with 3 being the commonality, will the next candidate who was the most frequented number, would that serve as an alternative if candidate 3 is unable to fulfill their commitment?
So my understanding is that we today, our only job is to pick our top 3, and then those will go on to the actual board, and they will make those sort of decisions. And then the student advisory, they'll advise on their top 3, and then the board will kind of, unanimously vote, I guess, on both those boards. So student
right.
and teacher.
So what will
Is
be
that right,
presented?
Meredith?
That's perfect. Yes. So what will be presented to that special committee of state board members will just be the top 3 candidates, and they will not be sent any ranking of those. It'll just be that these are the 3 recommended from the Student Advisory Council and the 3 from the Teachers Advisory Council. And then they will go through a full review process and deliberate as well to make their final recommendations for the teacher and student for the board to vote on in April. So you guys are identifying just your top 3.
Just our top 3. So based upon, math, we have all unanimously picked 3. So I guess if we're looking at our top 3, then applicant 3 would certainly, since they've shown up on all of us, on all of our spreadsheets, we could go ahead and choose 3 as one of our top 3. applicant 3 as one of our top 3? All right. So now let's look at our next applicant. It looks like applicant number 1 has shown up across multiple folks. Carla C, Amanda, Carla L, Amber, and I think that's it, but applicant 1 has shown up strong. Would anyone like to talk about that or maybe argue on applicant 1's behalf? If you remember their application or something that was outstanding about it to you? Or their score? Chad, go ahead.
The one thing that stood out to me as I go back through the, especially the narrative part, is that the statement, "I've never wanted to be in any other field or pursue any other career." So people talk about the dream jobs and I'm living my dream job. That's kind of cool that they think teaching is their dream job. So
that's definitely compelling. And I think more than one of us concurred with that. Mm-hmm. So that was definitely something strong. And there were high numbers there. It looks like, I mean, their scores were above 30 for most of us on applicant 1's spreadsheet data.
I'd like to add on to that as well. One thing that I really loved is that they are an Educators Rising advisor, and that means that they're a part of that Grow Your Own initiative.
Right.
I think that's a really important voice to share, and I think that they would bring to the table a lot of different ideas for how we can continue to grow those numbers. Educators Rising clubs have grown in the past year. And so I know that they're going to have a lens that they would be able to offer for how we can continue that moving in the right direction.
That's a great point. And you know, as we, I think, looked at these, it was important not to just look at the narrative, which this one was so compelling, but also to look at the resume, you know, and see what they're working on in their professional development. So that was great. That's a great point.
The only concern I had about applicant 1 was on the resume, it said that they are the director of teaching and learning. And so I was wondering if that is an actual classroom role. I know this will be a teacher, but the person listed director. So I was just concerned about if they qualified for this role because they're not actually
in the classroom,
classroom or teacher, because the resume said director of teaching and learning, instruct high school scholars on all districts academy of innovation technology. So maybe they're working with high school students, but the word director kind of threw me off.
I felt like they were maybe like at a center for innovation or something like that. Chad maybe could speak to that. I don't know how you all do that in your districts or in that part of the state. I know this is your congressional area. So
yeah, I went back over and I pulled that up as well. So I don't know exactly where they are in our area.
Yeah.
So
well, when I looked at this applicant and if you went back through and looked at their eligibility on that beginning page, I think they stated that they were eligible. I don't think they would have gotten to this point if they hadn't had eligibility. Because I know that we had one applicant that was pulled, we would have had 9. And when they were sort of adjudicated, if they weren't eligible, they were pulled from our stack. So I'm thinking they're okay. I don't think they would have gotten this far if they weren't. So do you want to look at that though, Carla C? And that very first page, if you can pull it up and see if they met the eligibility requirement for candidate 1 or applicant 1.
Let me see. On the resume?
I think there's a page that shows their eligibility.
Oh, let me go back. Yes, it said, yes, I meet the criteria, but I was wondering if that was like, because they said they think they met it, and did KDE
Yeah.
actually
Yeah, I
confirm
met it.
that they met? Yeah, because I saw like, it said director, and I was just worried about that part of it. If they really meet the criteria as a teacher, because the job was listed as director. So
Right. That's confusing.
Yes.
Meredith, are
yes.
you on here?
I am, yes. That is something that we can confirm. So as far as eligibility, we were checking for that they resided in the first congressional district. That was sort of the primary eligibility. And then we took the statements that they provided as evidence of compliance with those requirements. But once the candidates are identified, they will be sent to the Office of Legal Services to have a review as far as their EPSB check. And so we will confirm that they have the appropriate certifications before those candidates are shared with the board. Should that candidate be identified, that would be another check prior to the board
So,
review.
but you can confirm that as of right now, they have met the eligibility
That's
to be in our top 3.
Correct. That is right. Yes.
All right. Good. Well, that's good. So then do we want to push applicant 1 onto our top 3 based upon 4 out of our 6 people that we have here today? All right, thumbs up. We like that. So candidate 1 or applicant 1. So now we have applicant 3, applicant 1, and this is where it got a little bit more picking our, I guess, our third top candidate. We had a couple of different numbers tossed out. We had a couple of 4s. We actually had 3 4s, and then a 6 and a 5, another 6 and another 5. So it looks like 4, 5, and 6 are our choices as far as if we're breaking it down by who each of us chose. So, Kenita, you had also, I think, number 5. Yep. So, does anybody want to talk about candidate? We can go in order, like numerical order. It looks like 5 has been chosen an equal number of times, 3 times the number 5. So, do we want to look? That's the top one. The next top one. Do we want to talk about candidate or applicant number 5? Anybody want to pitch 5?
I was all ready to do that.
All right, let's do it.
So similar to how we identified earlier that the grow your own initiative perspective is valuable, I think that the perspective that this teacher comes through without knowing how they identify as something that belongs to a underrepresented perspective. And I think that is something that is valuable of operating through that lens of how do we make those that are underrepresented feel represented? How do we include those who have been underrepresented feel represented and included? And I think that's
definitely part of it, yeah.
And I think that's especially all too important now with the current conversation that we have going on, that idea of y'all means all Kentucky students involved in their learning, all Kentucky students having access to representation and power and good learning.
So Kenita had 5, and speaking mostly to narrative, Chad, you also had 5. Did you want to kind of pitch for 5? Amber had 5 as well, but she's had to exit, I think, to go to a different meeting. So
the thought process I had accents what was said, that I feel like that being a minority representative on their resume, let me go back to it. Their resume said 4th District Diversity Representative. So they have experience with that. That's the one reason why they made my list as well, is for the diversity aspect of it, because we are a diverse Commonwealth and we need representation all the time.
Yes, this person I also think had pretty high scores across the board. So that's applicant number 5. And again, 3 of the folks on this committee have chosen 5. So let's look at 4. Anybody want to pitch for number 4? I think 4 was our next one with 2 votes. Anybody? Carla C? Not to put you on the spot, but you had number 4.
Yes, and number 4 scored well with me because of the resume, the background, and the variety of different areas this person has performed in, especially with the arts. I thought I was looking at representation from that perspective, that usually when we have teacher representation, it comes from core content areas and not so much from the visual arts and that performing arts area. So that was the reason why that one ranked high. And the person still had been in education for a very long time. It discussed CARA, which was what I was tested under when I was in elementary school, but I'm not telling my own age. And so that was another reason, just their longevity in education and coming from a different content area of perspective.
I'll echo that. I had number 4 ranked pretty high. I really loved their background. I thought that they seemed, this applicant seemed very cultured and had a lot of knowledge and interesting just background and work record. So that kind of spoke to me because I kind of have a diverse background, I guess. And I just feel like, bringing that to the table would have been impactful outside of those core areas that we talk about sometimes, just to sort of represent the underrepresented content areas, particularly of the arts. So that spoke to me too. So I did like 4 as well. So 4 was one of my top also. The last
one.
Yeah, go ahead, Kenita. Jump in, honey.
So something that I did struggle with, because I was thinking the same thing that you were, Carla, except I had this conflict of more established educator versus fairly new educator, and like the differences in wealth, both a wealth of experiences, but very different lens, where you have someone who is still coming up in their career, and that would be candidate 5, I believe I'm speaking to, versus someone who's very well established in their career, which is candidate 4 that I'm speaking to. And so I think that is something to consider as well, is just their experience in the field. I don't think that is necessarily something that's not valuable, but I think that it does bring in certain lenses when you have someone that's coming in fairly new into education, because our previous candidates, the one that we discussed for, just started teaching around 2012, I believe, versus the other, our current candidate that we're talking about has been well established and is well connected, and is
That's
able
really
to.
true.
So that is a conflict that I have when we're looking at these different candidates, because I can say all of these candidates have the passion, all of them have the love for education, and it's just a matter of finding which voice will speak to whatever needs that we're addressing currently.
Well, it is, and it's so interesting, I think, how we've lined up so well with each other. That just, I think, goes to speak to these top candidates, because there are very few outliers. We've all really chosen, I think, the ones that have spoken to us, and I'm glad that they speak to us that way, that we've sort of had a little bit of uniformity. Anybody else want to throw a number into the hat, or we can sort of debate numbers 4 and 5 a little more? Or it looks like right now, based upon just who has tossed their numbers out, candidate 4 would have 2 of our 5, and candidate 5 would have 3 of our 5. So you all just put it out there what you'd like to do. If you'd like to continue, it looks like somebody's in the chat maybe, or that could just be, no. Sorry, my screen's not being nice to me now.
I think Amber
Yeah.
had to leave. That's why she was telling everybody thank you. I think she had to step out of the meeting.
I think
I
we may
think
have
either
lost
candidate-
Melanie. Oh, here we-
I think either candidate, 4 or 5 would bring items to the table that would be beneficial for our state, for our Commonwealth, for our education, coming from the various backgrounds that each candidate has. So I don't know if there's a wrong choice per se. Of course, I'm an arts guy, I'm the music teacher, so I'm good with the arts teacher, but I'm also a very strong supporter of our students who, like a student here, doesn't have a home. And so we need representation of students teachers that are passionate about students who are having issues and can address those issues with the full group. So.
That's a great point. Well, do we want to, based upon what we've shared with each other today, go ahead and push forward our applicant number 5 solely based on numbers? That's kind of what we've done with the others. We looked at our top, and so, oh, thank you, Meredith. So you confirmed that she is an instructor, correct?
That's correct, yes. I spoke with the principal.
Okay, thank you for doing that. Well, if we do not feel like we need to debate anymore, then I think we can go ahead and confirm that we have chosen candidates 1, 3, and 5 for our top 3 to move forward now to the board. All right. So Meredith. Okay. Meredith, if you
Okay, so we are going to quickly do a roll call just so that we can have this be official. So Kenita Ballard?
So I say my name, Kenita Ballard, and I say yes to all 3.
Yes, well, first let's get a motion. So I believe that on the table is approval of 3, 1, and 5.
And I second that motion.
Okay, so Kenita, I'm not able to make a motion. So
I'll
Kenita,
make a
would you like?
Okay.
Oh,
I'll
wow.
make a motion to
Okay, and then
approve.
Chad will second it. Perfect. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
Okay, so now we'll do Kenita Ballard. Do you approve that motion?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Melanie Callahan.
yes.
Okay. Carla Criswell.
Yes.
Chad Davidson.
Yes, I approve.
Amanda Claire.
Yes.
Carla Lawson.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And then Amber had to step out. Okay, Chair, all members have voted.
Well, at this time, all I need is a motion to adjourn our meeting.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
I second.
Perfect. So if you want to, Chair, you can just have a voice vote on that. So all in favor.
All in favor of adjourning our meeting today of this special committee, please raise your right hand and say aye.
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 Thank you all so much.